everyone, and welcome to our newscast. It's Thursday, November 27th here in Seoul. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. Let's check out the stories making headlines at this hour. The European Commission announces a 315 billion euro investment package. That's more than 390 billion US dollars to boost job growth and lure investments. Tensions from Ferguson in the U.S. state of Missouri spread to other parts of the country. People in L.A. are taking to the streets now to protest against a grand jury's decision in the Michael Brown case. And here in Korea, President Park Geun-hye says she is aware that some have doubts about her creative economy drive, but tells them they need to be more open to the idea and embrace innovation. Well, the European Commission has unveiled a massive $393 billion plan to kickstart the ailing EU economy. About 80% of package will come from private investors under the outline presented by European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. At the European Parliament on Wednesday, local time, he said, after years of fighting to restore the region's fiscal credibility, it was time to turn the page.
Today, we are adding the third point of a virtuous circle, an ambitious yet realistic investment plan for Europe. Europe needs a kickstart, and today the Commission is applying the jump cables.
Now, at the center of the five-year plan is boosting infrastructure, be it education, research, or transport. The president also welcomed governments to submit proposals for projects launchable in the next 1 to 3 years and have high socio-economic returns. The European Investment Bank would create a $26 billion reserve and free up more in loans. The Commission hopes the initiative will create up to 1.3 million new jobs. And over in the U.S., the anger and frustration over a grand jury's decision not to indict Missouri police officer Darren Wilson has now spread to other parts of the world, not to mention the rallies still going on in other big American cities. ARIRANG's Kim Min-ji has more.
Protests are spreading across the United States over a grand jury decision not to indict a white police officer that shot and killed an unarmed black teenager in Ferguson, Missouri in August. Ferguson, where the majority of residents are black, has been at the center of violence, with a number of commercial buildings burned down and businesses looted since the announcement. Authorities have increased their presence in the area to quell the unrest. Rallies in the area continued on Wednesday as protesters marched into St. Louis City Hall. There were also demonstrations in the streets of Boston, New York, and Los Angeles.
We believe Officer Darren Wilson should have been indicted and brought to justice for the murder of Michael Brown. Since he wasn't, we're not going to quit fighting. We're going to take our next fight to the Justice Department, and hopefully the Department of Justice can charge him, bring him to justice, and put him in jail where he belongs for murder.
More than 400 people have been arrested across the United States. The protest movement has also spread to global cities, including London and Tokyo. Meanwhile, the police officer in question, Darren Wilson, broke his silence in an exclusive interview with ABC News. The 28-year-old said he has a clean conscience because he knew he did his job right. Leslie McSpadden, the mother of victim Michael Brown, said Officer Wilson's interview was disrespectful. Attorneys for the Brown family said they would push for federal charges against Wilson, alleging the grand jury process was rigged from the start. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
And the damage caused by the violence and protesters in Missouri is being assessed. Korean store owners in the area could not avoid the chaos either. At least 2 stores, a beauty supply shop and a cell phone store, were reportedly burned to the ground, and several other shops owned by Korean Americans suffered varying degrees of damage and looting. A Korean American representative from the city says as of now, the amount of damage suffered by the Korean-owned businesses is estimated at more than $2 million US. Back here in the nation, Korean fishermen are fed up with having to deal with illegal fishing by Chinese fishermen in the West Sea and say they aren't going to take it anymore. Holding a rally in Korea's West Sea, the fishermen say they will stage another protest if they are not compensated for their losses. Our Connie Kim reports.
Angry fishermen downed their nets, docked their boats, and plastered them with placards that call for stronger government action against illegal fishing by the Chinese. The 5 West Sea islands are dying because of illegal Chinese fishing, reads one banner. Find Chinese fishermen and return the money to the victims as compensation, says another. The fishermen from Korea's 5 westernmost islands are staging protest rallies aboard their 80 boats for a second day in a row, denouncing the government for failing to stamp out illegal Chinese fishing and calling for compensation for losses incurred. The Korean government announced last week that it'll set up a special task force team of naval vessels and helicopters to patrol waters in the West Sea, but the protesters say the moves don't go far enough. The protesters have not indicated how much they're seeking as compensation. But the Incheon Citizens Coalition for Economic Justice estimates losses caused by illegal Chinese fishing near the islands at some $690,000 in November alone. They also claim tens of thousands of dollars in losses from stolen fishing equipment. Over the past 5 years, more than 1,800 Chinese boats have been seized for illegal activities within Korea's exclusive economic zone. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Talks between senior officials from Korea and Japan are underway in Seoul, aimed at resolving Tokyo's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. The meeting is the 5th of its kind and comes after President Park Geun-hye and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expressed hopes for tangible progress in the high-level talks on the sidelines of the APEC summit. Seoul has called on Tokyo to take sincere steps to apologize and compensate the aging victims, but Japan insists the matter was legally settled through a bilateral treaty in 1965. Now, Korea has decided to send 10 medical staff to Ebola-hit Sierra Leone next month. It will be the first batch of medical support from Korea to West Africa. The focus is now on what to do if a team member contracts Ebola during their mission. Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Korea has finalized the details of a medical support team that will be sent to Ebola-hit Sierra Leone next month. Seoul's foreign ministry says it will deploy a group of 10 that includes 4 doctors and 6 nurses. They're scheduled to depart on December 13th and first head to a British Ebola treatment facility near London for training. Their medical work in Sierra Leone will start on December 29th, and it's expected that they'll stay there for 3 months.
We selected Sierra Leone due to their high number of Ebola patients. The virus is spreading at a fast pace, faster than in Liberia. And the recovery rate of those infected is also high in Sierra Leone. So we thought our help would be most effective there.
The ministry is also preparing for worst-case scenarios. In the event a team member contracts the Ebola virus, the ministry is considering transporting the victim on a U.S.-run private airliner to a facility in Europe for treatment. They will not be sent to Korea due to concerns that the long flight could worsen their condition. Once their mission in Sierra Leone is complete, all team members will be quarantined in Korea for 21 days to make sure they're Ebola-free. The ministry says it's considering sending 3 separate teams to West Africa next year, each composed of 10 people for similar efforts. Korea dispatched a team to Sierra Leone earlier this month to conduct site inspections of medical facilities there. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
In the year 2012 for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. President Park Geun-hye has urged those who question her creative economy drive not to be afraid and to have an open mind about innovation. That remark was made at an exhibition on creativity in southern Seoul today, where she promoted her campaign to create new growth engines based on innovative ideas and new technology.
창조 경제가 모호하다. 방향이 잘못되었다고 얘기하는 분들이 있는 것으로 압니다. 그러나 그것은 창조 경제의 문을 열고 들어오지 않은 사람들의 이야기입니다. 두려워 말고 그 문을 두드려야 합니다.
Now, she then referred to the progress already being made from the expansions of startups and investments at home to her growth strategies receiving praise at the recent G20 summit. President Park also vowed continued support for startups and small to mid-sized firms while crediting all those in attendance for their interest in and efforts toward building a creative economy. Now, for the year 2015, Korean exports will grow more than 4% from this year. That's according to a report released by a state-run think tank this week. Our Shin Se-min reports on the outlook and what's expected to lead that growth.
The nation's state-run think tank see bright things ahead of the Korean economy next year. Driven by the stronger exports, the Korea Institute for Industrial Economics and Trade expects the economy to grow 3.7% next year, up from the 3.5% forecast for this year. The report attributes the rosy outlook to an expected recovery in domestic consumption stemming from rising exports and government stimulus measures. It says Korean exports will grow 4.5% from this year to exceed $600 billion for the first time ever. But downside risks remain. The think tank cites the strengthening of the Korean currency, a growing number of Korean companies taking their production of mobile devices and semiconductors overseas, and the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement as issues that could hamper exports. Breaking it down by industry, the automobile and semiconductor industries are expected to see an expansion of exports. Buoyed by exports of high-end offshore plants, liquefied natural gas, and container ships to foreign clients, the growth rate of the sector is forecast to hit 7%. But it won't be good news for everyone. The petrochemical and textile sectors are due to contract because of weak domestic consumption. The steel and refining industries, considered flagship exporters, are also expected to be hit with a slowdown next year. While steel is forecast to expand 9% this year, that rate will drop to 2% next year, the think tank says, because of cheaper Chinese steel entering the market. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Samsung's leadership shift through restructuring is slowly shaping up with Wednesday's announcement to sell off shares of 4 affiliates. Analysts are expecting another move to come sometime next week. Our Lee Ji-yoon reports on how everything is lining up.
Samsung is getting ready for a generational power transfer. With its chairman Lee Geun-hye still in the hospital after suffering a heart attack in May, his 3 children are putting the group's restructuring plans into action. And Wednesday's news of Samsung selling shares in 4 of its affiliates proves just that. 46-year-old Lee Jae-yong, the chairman's only son and the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics, is widely expected to be the next in line to run the company. Now that Samsung has decided to do away with most of its non-profitable defense and chemical businesses, Lee is expected to take control of the group's core units. Those are electronics, financial services, and construction. As for Lee Bu-jin, the chairman's eldest daughter, she will oversee Hotel Shilla while controlling trade and catering units. Lee Geun-hye's youngest daughter, Lee Se-hyun, will call the shots for the group's fashion and media branches. Samsung's entities are held together by a labyrinth of cross-shareholdings. Therefore, the Lee family is able to maintain control over the group despite holding a small amount of shares. While a leadership change is underway, the company is also planning to carry out a reshuffle of its top officials sometime next week. Samsung's tumbling earnings and weak smartphone sales are all the more reason for why the company feels the need for a management shakeup. Lee Ji-yoon, ARIRANG News.
The number of Koreans applying to have their debts restructured is forecast to hit a record high this year. Financial authorities say more than 93,000 people filed for so-called individual debtor rehabilitation in the nation's courts during the first 10 months of 2014. Now that's up more than 7.5% from the same period last year. Experts say the accumulation of more and more household debt means more people are struggling to make ends meet financially. The Bank of Korea says the amount of household debt as of the end of September stood at roughly $950 billion, up around $20 billion from the end of June. On a lighter note, Korea's largest design fair opened its door for visitors this week. This year's focus is on innovation and creative designs that help improve our daily lives. Our Park Ji-won takes us to that scene.
Korea's largest annual design fair features a diverse range of innovative and creative items. For example, all of this modern light equipment is made from 3D printers. And how about this cute ribbon-shaped wine stopper? There are also furniture pieces designed specifically for small studio apartments or one-person homes. And then there's this interior LED light.
The shape is inspired by traditional white Korean porcelain pieces, yet its distinctive characteristic is that it's made of a silicone material, which makes for warmer and softer lighting.
The design fair not only showcases fresh ideas by up-and-coming designers, it also puts so-called social designs into the spotlight that aim to change society for the better through smart designs. For instance, these products were designed by children facing physical or psychological challenges. All the profits will be spent on their art education. And these pretty flower patterns apply to products like smartphone covers, mugs, and t-shirts, come from paintings made by victims of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement during art therapy sessions.
I thought their paintings could be used for design pieces. Our goal is to have people view and respect them as artists, not merely as victims.
There are social issues that fit into the theme of this year's festival: well-aged life, well-balanced design.
This year's design festival attempts to see whether designers can provide solutions for creating a healthier society.
The 13th annual design fair is expected to draw tens of thousands of visitors during its 5-day run that ends Sunday. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
When we talk about an art collaboration, we usually think of 2, maybe 3 artists coming together. But today, our Im Yoon-hee joins us with a collaboration that involves many different artists. Good afternoon, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon. So they're calling it a collaboration, but my opinion, it's really they've created something entirely new. Now the project is called the Skywalk project, and it involves the participation of many different types of artists, and they've all come together to give their own take on what it means to go between conformance and traversal. So take a look.
Hold that pose, work that dress. But wait, those don't look like any ordinary high-fashion pieces. That's because they're hanboks, beautiful traditional Korean dresses with billows of rich fabric. And the models behind the outfits? They're ballerinas, offering a unique collaboration between the traditional and the contemporary. Photographer Park Geun-hye is one of Korea's foremost fashion photographers. But this time, he's taking a different approach, as this is a rather different project. Between conformance and traversal, this photographer has captured something new.
I didn't give any direction to the models. I told them to wear the clothes and express how they felt about it and in it. So they might have loved it and conformed to it, or hated it, or gone back and forth, but it's their genuine expressions I wanted to capture. For the sake of the authenticity of the entire project, we didn't do any touch-ups at all either. You can see the flaws and even bruises on the models' bodies. But this is what proves who they are while wearing these clothes. And so through this, people can see the space between conformance and traversal.
These collaborations captured on a screen are being prepared to be displayed at the Ghana Art Gallery. The various different angles of the beautiful hanboks and the dancers to be spread across the walls. Even the lighting and the tone is experimented with in order to prepare for the expansion of the collaboration as the other members of the event begin to arrive. The musicians head into a test run, but they too run into a surprise, and they discover that a gallery offers a rather unusual music experience.
as note after note continually ricochets unpredictably off each nearby wall. The gallery comes alive, full of expression, creating a raw space between conformance and traversal, where everyone involved encounters the new and the unfamiliar.
The director of the National Theatre of Korea is usually working on a big stage, but this time it's a small gallery. Also, people don't usually want to give money to watch a performance of the dancers' backs. These are all examples of what we want to show people. We want artists to come with their own questions, pains, and unresolved problems, and when these ideas are given to the audience, they'll either conform or transverse, but in the end, they will be that interaction between everyone and everything, which is what we want to show people.
Sometimes it just takes a little getting used to. But the cast is willing to take that risk of showing people something they might not like or something they might love. The void between conformance and traversal is wide, like an empty stage, waiting to be filled. And who or what will fill it is entirely unknown.
So you weren't kidding when you said there is going to be more than 3 artists together. It's basically everybody, really.
Artists involved.
So it is safe to say that this is a new type of performance.
Right, with really a star-studded cast and a behind-the-scenes cast as well. So it's a home run lineup for this particular project. And so they're actually starting from the photographer to the musicians to the dancers. All of them are from the tops in their fields, and they're all coming together to put this project together. And you know, they were joking when I was there. They were saying, how is someone going to one-up this? And it's definitely a question you need to ask, because there are so many of the legends in their fields coming together to do this.
And about the performance, so what we saw in the report was a rehearsal, and the actual performance is going to be this weekend, you said,
starting this weekend. So starting this Saturday, they are offering the performances there at the gallery as well. And they'll also be showing some pictures as well. But you could also see the dancer, ballerina Kim Ju-won, who was featured in the magazine The Photo Shoot as well. She is actually part of this photo shoot, but they're going to be giving away some of these beautiful works there as well. So if you go there, you may be a lucky few to receive
for free
one of these. Yes, and so if you go there, it's really an interesting take to the hanbok. And so they're not your traditional artworks. And so you really get a sense, an artistic sense as well, of this sort of, he said he wants to explore another side to, I guess, the hanbok, into the traditional and the fusion. But this performance, they're offering 9 total performances of different types of performances, featuring some top artists as well. And so they're actually going to be offering director of the National Theatre of Korea, director Won-il. He's very well known for his fusion works. He will be there as well. It's a perfect fit for this project.
So this is going to be at the Kana Art Center.
Exactly. You can start checking it out this weekend.
Okay. Thank you very much, Uni, for this delightful report today.
It's always a pleasure.
It was a foggy morning here in Korea. Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. There is still a bit of fog in the atmosphere here and there, which will lift as the sun comes out today. Now, the temperatures will be relatively warm as well, reaching the high teens in some regions. Now, looking at the satellite map, you can see the fog in some regions, especially down in Chungcheongnam province. But that, along with the clouds, will move out later on, making a way for the sun. However, rain is also in the forecast starting in the morning in the west side of the peninsula, which will then expand to the whole nation by noon tomorrow. And to our readings for today, Seoul will peak at 15 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will top to 16 and 18 degrees. And to other regions, Jeju Island will top to 17, while Dokdo hits a bit lower at 14, while Nangkang will be a bit higher at 15 degrees. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and have a wonderful day.
And that does it for this edition of our newscast. Thank you for watching. More news coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time. Bye-bye for now.